All right, guys. Well, right after I did the monologue earlier for Patreon, I looked at my phone. I was like, "Oh, I'm on 10%. I should plug it in." I went to my luggage from the trip we just went on, and it wasn't there. I was like, "Fuck!" I went and woke Karina up. She's like, "I don't know. I'm not responsible for your cord." I was really mad. I tore my house apart. Just started breaking shit. I was like, "Is this valuable? Fuck this. If I can't be happy, nobody can in this house." Anyway, make a long story short, I had to leave my house right now. Go all the way to not even I don't even know where it was. It was like some gas station that's up. It's up. The gas station's up right now. It's like midnight. No, it's like one of those gas stations where you can get not just snack food. Like you can get eggs there and shit. Have you ever been there's weird phenomenons like that? And there's always some tweakers shopping there. Look at them, they're like, "Hey man, are you horny?" I'm like, "No." "Yeah, me neither. Just buying eggs." "Yeah, me too, bro." I had to go to a place like that. Anyway, so I got the cord. Yeah, I was like, "What the fuck, dude?" Because, you gotta realize, as much as there's definitely a very small faction on Patreon where, if I go, 2 days without a video, death threats. And that shit weighs on me. I cannot even enjoy life if I know that I, owe a video. I'm not, it's not even an exaggeration. I'm, miserable. I'm like, ugh. So, I went, dodged some lot lizards or whatever, and I got the charger, and so now I have to do 2 videos. I mean, I don't give a fuck. I don't care if the sun comes up. I'm doing what I say tonight, because I gotta make it up. There. Like, comment, subscribe, check out patreon.com/Ryan Leone. It's midnight. It's not that bad. I got 2 monsters while I was out. Tweaker's like, "You gonna stick that up your ass?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, man. For sure." I was like, "Yeah." Alright, so anyway. Let's get into the story. So last video, I think I spent perhaps too much time recapping. Although, as I explained in that video, that time period's kind of convoluted because it kind of splinters off into different stuff. It's kind of like the precursor for how I made $500,000, which is also the precursor for the Redux series that I was doing on Patreon, which I will get back to at some point. And even me, I'm like, fuck, where was I at this point? So I had to really think about it. I had to remember, because a lot happened in this short amount of time. Anyway, we already spent a whole video where I was like, "What?" And I just started confessing sexual. I was like, "Yeah, I fucked her. I'm out of control sexually." Alright, so my dad caught me masturbating myself with a Dodgers foam hand. I don't think that that's why he kicked me out. I think that it was just, a drug addict will look at something like that and be like, "It's just acid. You can't even get addicted to that. It's not a big deal." But to a normal person, you just got a possession. You're going to court, right? To a normal person, taking acid, when you're already in trouble, is insanity. So that's I think how he was looking at it. And he had warned me, gave me an ultimatum. He's like, "Look, no drug use in the house." Now, I don't know how he didn't realize that I was strung out on heroin at that time. Because I was. There's vomit bags and shit all over my room. Bloody tissues. But that was the kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. So whatever. So I ended up getting kicked out. And during that time, I don't think I really covered it because it's too hard to kind of recall because I went in and out of these places so much. But I was going to sober living houses quite a bit because they had like such a low standard of, they pretty much let everybody live there. You know, that's like the one place that my parents, it's like, think of it like this. I'm on a run. I'm couch surfing. Eventually I burn out. I'm calling people. I'm like, can I crash at your house tonight? They're like, no. Last time I was here, you fucked a Dodgers hand. I'm like, phew. No, that was only at my dad's house. But you know what I mean. I'd get kicked out of a lot of my friends' houses. So I couldn't call my dad and be like, hey, can you pay for a hotel for a week? My dad wasn't going to do that, but he would do the sober livings. Problem was, is they drug test you at places like that. So I knew that my time there was short-lived. Now, my dad didn't have to pay up front. Well, not like he was throwing away money when I'd get kicked out of these places. Not always, sometimes. Typically, you'd have to pay on Friday. So I always like strategically, it'd be like a Monday. I'd be like, hey, I'd like to come into your sober living. And then I'd get booted. At one point, there was one called New House, and I was like making a margarita, like a blender. It was like, there were like 2 stories. It was completely dead silent in the middle of the night. I turned on a blender, and it like reverberated, and they were like, what the fuck? I was like, I'm an alcoholic, and I wasn't. But those kind of things were getting me booted out. So I think at that point, I mean, like, you got to really, like, kind of get it in your mind that I was going in and out of these places, like, all the time. It was like my parents' house, sober living, friends' houses, Roland's house until he started feeding dead cats. And I felt morally obligated at that point to call his mom and be like, hey, you know, I've let a lot of weird shit slide, but, like, he's feeding dead animals. His mom's like, so? No, she was concerned, obviously. So at the very end of all that, just getting booted out of various places, really, like, the only option I had was this girl that I'd met at the airport in Las Vegas who thought I was a pro surfer. I forget what her name was. What did we call her? Did we have a name for her? I think it was Erica. Something like that. I don't know. I don't know what we called her. I try not to use people's real name. Sometimes real name. So that one night, the night that I got kicked out of my parents' house, you know, I'd been talking to her on the phone. And she told me that she was living in Santa Fe. I think originally she was from Florida, I want to say. Like, she wasn't from Santa Fe when I'd met her at the airport. She was, like, from Florida. And she'd relocated there because, like, I think her mom got married to this other guy. Whatever the case. And that wasn't too far after I'd met her. Maybe like a month, I want to say. But anyway, she was kind of explaining to me that she had a place that was not part of the main house. So basically, I'm like, you got room for my surfboard? She's like, I think we can find a place. She was like playing along with me. She, honest to God, thought that I was a pro surfer. You know, this was like before Instagram and Facebook and, you know, you couldn't do that now. Yeah, I'm a pro surfer. Like 30 followers. I think back then, I don't even know if they had Wikipedia yet. Probably, but you know what I mean. It was like hard to fact check it. So that became my plan. That's what I was going to do. I was going to go out there. The problem, I didn't have any money. We've talked about JP a lot. He's for sure was a reoccurring character in my life for a long, long time. Until he passed away last year. But right before this had happened, around that time period, when I was going in and out of the sober livings, and that's why I was explaining that, I was working for him. I worked for him on and off for a long time. I was his coke runner. I don't know why he trusted me with cocaine. I don't even know if it's that he trusted me. I think I was so drugged out that, like, I'm like, if I get caught, I'll go to prison. I don't care. I just want to get high. You know, most of his friends weren't like that. I was like probably the most degenerate person he knew. That's probably why he fucked with me like that. When I had gotten pulled over with the kilo and the gun, the Baker brother, narcotic detectives in Santa Barbara, that was right around the time that I'd stopped working for him. See, what happened right after that, I like kind of looked at it as a God shot. You know, I mean, even though I was doing drugs while I was at that sober living, and I was kind of like faking it till I made it type thing, I still went to AA meetings and I'd hear things. You know, people would like give their white light moments. Like, yeah, I was scuba diving and a fucking octopus started talking to me. Told me I need to stop doing meth, bro. So I stopped. And I'd always just be sitting there, what the fuck? But that time that I got pulled over with that kilo and that gun and I was able to talk my way out of it, I don't know, something about that situation, like, it was such a close call. Like, I could have gone to prison for a long time right there and then. Right after that, I literally went up to the guy, Steve, that ran Lighthouse at that time. The guy that overdosed and died in Lighthouse. Like, we've talked about him. He was always, like, kind of running a scam. Like, he owned one of the biggest sober living franchises in Santa Barbara, and he was, like, a cold-ass junkie from, like, the 80s. Like, skeleton fucking earrings. No, he was pretty clean cut, but he, you know, he was the kind of guy that was like stuck in the 80s who wear like leather jackets and blue jeans, shit like that. Nobody trusted him. But I went up to him and I was like, because we like had a good rapport. It wasn't him that had kicked me out. It was like the Southsiders that would work for him. They were probably informants. Yeah, dog. I'm from San Diego. It's like, what are you doing up here, weirdo? Are you from a neighborhood? No. Yeah, I mean, no. Yeah. All right. Sounds good, man. I went up to Steve and I was like, hey, Steve, I don't know how to tell you this, but I just got pulled over with a fucking kilo of cocaine and a gun and a black dude. He's like, Black Chris? I was like, that one. The only black guy here. He's like, oh my God. He's like, well, what are you going to do? And like, look, I've noticed this. I've been to like 25 rehabs. That's not even including detoxes and like psych wards and sober livings. Like a lot of people, when they're like, I've been to like 50 rehab, they'll count the sober livings. I don't count that. Sober living is a sober. I have no idea how many I've been to. I've probably been to like 15 different ones. California, Florida. And what I've noticed about places like that, and it sounds like weird, sounds like paradoxical. This goes against common sense. But I've always like kind of made authority figures feel like I'm some idiot that just like tells on myself. I'll be at a sober living. I'll be like, yeah, I didn't come home at curfew last night. I tricked the fucking night staff. Sorry. And they'd be like, dude, thanks for the honesty. They like dap me. But it's weird. When you're like that, they start letting you get away with shit. So I always like was pretty honest with Steve. I mean, to a point. That particular time when I got caught with when I almost got caught with the kilo and the gun, I really did feel a God shot. I felt like God was like looking out for me. So I went up and told him. I was like, Steve, this happened. He's like, do you have someone you can trust that can come get it? I was like, my dad. He's like, perfect. Have him come get you. Relocate the contraband. And you're good to stay, my man. I was like, all right, cool. So I called my dad. My dad didn't know. I had like a backpack with fucking 30-year prison sentence in it. I was like, oh, it's just my shit from the sober living. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And we ended up going back up to, like, my dad let me go to his house. And then he actually took me to JP's place. He was renting a pretty nice place, like right by the beach in a place called Montecito, which is really expensive. And I dropped it off. And that was pretty much when I had like stopped working for him, you know, kind of voluntarily. I mean, it was just a wake up call. And then I got kicked out of that sober living shortly thereafter. Who knows what the reason was that particular time. I got kicked out of there like 30 times. So when my dad kicked me out, see, this is one of the problems with that situation, is that I had gotten arrested with cocaine. Remember when those weirdos that I picked up left it on a CD case? I was looking at another possession. And like by that point, I wasn't a big time criminal in Santa Barbara. I don't think they looked at me like that. I think they were just like, they looked at me like, oh God, here's the 19 or 20-year-old kid, you know, the 20-year-old degenerate again. They looked at me as just some like young guy that's probably going to be doing this the rest of my life. But you could tell that they looked at me with like disgust. So when I was like trying to figure out what I was going to do, that was definitely something that was like, because I wanted to get to Santa Fe. That seemed like the best play. This girl that wanted me to come out there was like way out of my league. Way out of my league. Gold digger, for sure. I was like, yeah, I don't know. I wrote a Hawaiian love song about surfing and you. She's like, oh my God. I was like, yeah. My sponsor's about to give me like $75K. I was thinking about splitting it with you because I love you. She's like, oh my God, I love you. Come out here. But she don't give a shit about the money. So I knew in my mind that I had to take care of the court thing. And JP was kind of like he was like the catalyst for me, like selling, like he was my first like connect that I had like an ongoing business relationship with. So I think whatever happened after my dad had kicked me out, somehow I got a hold of JP and pretty much explained my situation. I was like, yeah, my dad, I didn't tell him why. I was like, yeah, man, fucking the bed again. He trips every time I do that. He's overreaction, dude. But I explained to him that I didn't have any money, and he was cool. Like, he was one of those people. He was a gambling addict, so he was one of those people. Like, if his chips were stacked, he'd take care of me. There was plenty of times that he put me up at night, and he, like, nice, generous people put you up at like a Motel 6. He'd put me up at like a $250 hotel. My stinky ass. I probably made that room smell for like weeks afterwards. My stench just seeped into all the shit in there. So when I explained it to him, he was telling me that, he was still selling coke. And at that time, he was doing really well. He would go down to LA and he would play poker tournaments down here. And like, he'd come back and like bring duffel bags just full of cash, like $1,000 stacks. And I'd see like and that wasn't from selling, that was from gambling. He sold drugs just so that he could participate in poker tournaments. So he was telling me that he had been going back and forth to Las Vegas quite a bit. Now remember, I'd already been to Vegas like somewhere in this time period for my 21st birthday. So this is definitely after I was 21. So that's when I met the girl, when I went out there. And he was telling me that in Las Vegas, cocaine was like way, 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 way more expensive than it was here. And I believe that because I remember like what a problem it was to get drugs when I was out there. And at that time, I don't know what he was getting kilos for, but he was giving me quarter pounds for 1,800. That was like always my deal with him. Quarter pound for 1,800, that makes it $450 an ounce. And he was telling me that I could sell ounces out there for $2,000. So that's a pretty significant profit margin. Now, I'm a junkie, so I didn't think of, like, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to make money. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm going to do a lot of drugs with that. I never looked at it like how it was going to benefit me financially. It was always how it was going to benefit my habit. And so he was telling me that he was going back and forth there so much. He's like, I need somebody out there. He's like, why don't I put you in Vegas? I was like, yeah, that's cool, but for how long? And he's like, I don't know. 2-3 weeks, maybe a month. He's like, I'll get you a room and you can just stay out there. I'll come do the drops. I'll still give you your same price. And you pretty much just sit in a nice ass hotel, sell coke. I was like, I don't know, bro. I'm homeless right now. It's pretty dope. I gotta think. Let me call you back. No, I jumped all over that. I was all about that. Now, I explained to him about my legal situation. I was like, hey, like, time out. There's something I should tell you. I was arrested for another possession. Now, one thing about him is he was very strategic. And he was sensible. He was practical. Unless he was, like, on some compulsive gambling shit, which happened from time to time. But he didn't like the fact that that I had an open case. And he's like, well, can you resolve it? I was like, well, yeah, but if I resolve it, they're going to put me on probation or they're going to make me go do time. What do you want me to do? He's like, I don't know, man, but I can't put you in Vegas to sell cocaine if you have an open cocaine case in California. I was like, all right, well, I don't know what to say. And we're kind of like at a standstill. So what he ended up doing is he ended up letting me stay. He got me a hotel for a few days in Santa Barbara. I definitely remember like staying at this hotel. It was in San Roque. Same hotel that the DEA like almost, remember when they were looking for some fugitives and like Kate and I were all like gacked out on coke? That was he put me up in that place for a little bit, I think like 3 days. Now I had like, I think after that point, at some point after that, he like let me stay at his place. I was like kind of going back and forth because at that time he had a girlfriend. So he couldn't like, if he didn't have the girlfriend, then I could have stayed at his place all the time. But like his place, even though it was in a really nice location, wasn't that big. He didn't want me just like tagging along. So anyway, make a long story short, I was dead. Drag shit out. I started going to court. You know, I started going to my possession case. Now, my dad had gotten me a paid attorney again. You know, he pretty much got me paid attorneys almost every time I've been in trouble, except for when I got the federal probation violation. The second time when I met Big Meech at Lompoc, he didn't pay for an attorney that time. I had a public defender. And after I fired that guy Adam for the pimping and pandering, I had a public defender after that point. But this particular case, I had some good private, I don't even remember who it was. I've had so many of these fucking cases, I just can't remember. But anyway, there's probably a period of about 2 weeks, I want to say, where I was kind of like going back from JP's place in Montecito, put me up in hotels. Ended up staying at his place for most of the time. And then, like, you know, this is like when him and his girlfriend would be gone. And I kept going to my court appearances. Now, when I'd go to my court appearances, I think they were trying to give me prison time, I want to say. Because that's how it used to work in California. You know, nowadays, if you get caught with, like, the same situation I was in, you get pulled over in a car, I'm driving, and I didn't get charged with the DUI, but I got charged with a possession. Nowadays, that would be a misdemeanor. Back in that time period, it was a felony. And if you stacked up felonies, like if I got like 2 or 3 of these possessions, which I believe I was at, one of them was out of Florida, but I think they could still use that against me because it was a conviction. At that point, they start sending you to prison. You know, Karina got 3 DUIs, and I was talking to her about it today in the car, and she was talking about how they were trying to send her to prison for 3 DUIs. And back then, a simple possession was way, way worse than that. I don't remember exactly what they offered me, but it was something, I think it was the first time that they were talking about prison. And it was for simple possessions, but I'd just gotten like 1 too many at that point. So I'd go to court. He'd push it off for like the next week. It was like I was going every week. I remember that. Like I said, it was probably like a 2-week period. Anyway, one night, however it worked out, hotel, JP's. One night I was at his house. I remember that for sure. I was at his house, and there was like this balcony where I used to smoke cigarettes. I've always been like a heavy cigarette smoker. And he didn't smoke cigarettes, and you know, people that don't smoke cigarettes hate on it. He'd always be pissed off that I was smoking. Smoking a cigarette on the back balcony, and some guy that we went to high school with shows up. He's like wearing a hooded sweatshirt. It has like some university emblazoned on it, but he's like wearing his hood. He looks sketchy. He looked like the Unabomber. Thought I was gonna get raped. I was like, hey man, what are you doing here? And like, he kind of like walked, you know, he was obscured, like where I saw him. I could just see some guy in a hood. But as he got closer, I recognized it. It was this dude we went to high school with. I didn't know who he was at first. I hadn't seen him in probably, he was a senior when I was a freshman. I think JP was as well. And he just kind of like shows up randomly at this balcony. I was like, hey man, what's up? You know, I recognized him, he recognized me. I was like, hey, can I sit here? And there's like these 2 chairs. JP wasn't, like, he was there that night, but he wasn't around when this guy showed up. I was like, what are you doing in JP's backyard? He's like, oh, he told me to come over. I was like, oh, all right. He's like, you want to smoke a blunt? I was like, yeah. So me and him started smoking a blunt, which I've never been good with socially. Hate smoking weed with people. I get scared. I get back on the rape thing. I'm like, oh my God. So he starts telling me about like what he did after high school, and he went to college or whatever. He'd probably been out of high school now for, I don't know, 6-7 years, something like that. He told me about how he went to college. He went to college up in Santa Cruz. And he's like, yeah, now I'm working for the district attorney. I don't remember who the DA that he worked for was at that time, but he's working at the DA's office. I didn't put any of this together. I'm just like sitting, I was like all like stuck in stone, like kind of just listening to what he was saying. He's like, do you know what I mean? In my head, I'm like, just try to say something cool. I bit a person a couple weeks ago at a party. I don't know, I said some random shit, you know? He was trying to tell me that he worked for the DA and worked in that office. I forget what he did for him, but he did something like where he worked for the district attorney. And he was trying to tell me in so many words that he could help me with my situation. But I wasn't picking up on it because I remember just being like stuck in stone. Thankfully, JP shows up at a certain point. Like, we had this conversation and then we like, it drifts into something else. JP shows up. He starts smoking weed with us. He's like, hey, did you tell Ryan? He's like, well, I've been trying to, but he's not too sharp, is he? JP was like, kind of looking, scowling at me disappointedly because I was not picking up what the fuck he was trying to do. This guy just didn't want to say it. He didn't want to say it out loud. And JP's like, he's trying to help your situation. I was like, oh, all right. I was like, I'm going to go inside. I ended up going inside. They were like, hung out the rest of the night. The next morning, I remember waking up. Oh, and at this time, you're probably, well, what happened to your heroin addiction? He's literally just giving me money all the time. I'm not selling drugs for him. I'm just kind of like he knows that he's going to put me up in Vegas. So he's kind of just like stringing me along. This, I think, went on for like a 2-week period, I want to say. Give me money. Wasn't like he was giving me like a lot, but he was giving me enough to like sustain my habit, take me to go score, all that. And I remember the next morning, I woke up, did my shot, and he was like sitting in a bathrobe, like reading the paper, looked like a totally normal person. And I went and sat next to the table with him, and he's like, hey man, he's like, what the fuck? I'm not gonna say the guy's name, but he's like, hey, you realize that like so-and-so works for the DA and that he can help you get out of your case, right? I had no idea that that's what he was trying to do. Even though he had told me that the night before, I was just like, I wasn't picking up that that was an actual thing. It's like the kind of thing you see in movies, but like somebody like me, I never have good luck like that. Like, with my luck, I'd probably catch a new case trying some shit like that. And I was like, well, what do I need to do? Do I need to suck his dick? He's like, yeah, bro. I was like, all right. Fuck it. Can't take another felony, bro. Nah, you just told me I didn't need to do anything. And basically, he, like, was able to get him to help me make the case go away. I was so young, I like didn't know how this stuff works. Like, I'm a little older now, I've been through the system, so I kind of like understand what was going on. But there's ways to make cases go away when you're working for the district attorney's office. So, I continue to stay with JP, and eventually I go for my next calendar appearance. Like, literally at that time, I was going every week, and they were trying to get me to sign something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something to do. It was like something severe. It was like 16 months in prison or something, which sounded like a life sentence back then. And I go to meet my attorney, because that's what I do. Go to court, he's being like the back. And like one of those weird like Hunter S. Thompson haircuts where it's like shaved and there's like just some hair right here. It's probably somebody's stepdad, probably coaches Little League, that kind of guy. And he'd always like crouch down. He always smelled like just scandal. Attorneys just smell scandalous. Smell like they've been butt fucking their secretary and then put on aftershave to try to mask the smell. He's like, hey man, they're dropping it. I was like, what do you mean? I already knew that was going to happen. JP told me that, and like I had no reason to doubt him. He's like, I don't know. It's over. I talked to the DA today, and that's that. And I swear to God, that's on everything. He was able to make it go away just because we knew somebody that worked in the DA's office. And this is, you got to keep in mind, this case had already been filed. See, a lot of times, now that I'm older, like I said, I don't want to like fuck up the flow of the story, but now that I'm older, I've seen this happen quite a bit where if you have somebody that works for the district attorney, especially in like a small town. Santa Barbara's not that big. There's like 2 district attorneys. I don't know if that's true, but not a lot. Different prosecutors, right? There's a period where you get arrested. Like, say I got arrested right now for sticking a shampoo bottle up my ass in public. What would happen is I'd go to jail, and they would like forward the arrest report to the district attorney's office, and then the district attorney would file. Shampoo bottle up your ass with intent to party, or whatever the fuck it is. So I've run into situations where, like, I know people that have friends in the DA office, and right when you get arrested, that's the easiest way for them to do it. They can, like, make sure that those charges never get filed. I don't know how that guy was able to do it, and I didn't even know him that well when I was in high school. JP was pretty conniving like that. He was pretty cunning. Like, he had juice like that. He was able to make my case just go away. I remember, like, kind of being shocked that that happened like that, and I ended up calling my dad. I was like, Dad, they dropped the case. My dad's like, why? I was like, because they say that I'm a good guy. I don't deserve to be in trouble. My dad's like, I knew it. I was like, yeah. And so he had talked to that girl Lily in New Mexico, the one that I had stayed with when all the things had gone down in the beginning of this series. And I guess she was really upset that I'd stolen those DVDs on my way out. That was like the final fucking straw or whatever. You know, I mean, she had already kicked me out, but that really upset her. Wasn't sitting well with her. And this had probably been, I was probably at JP's for a couple weeks. I'd say like a month had gone by. Maybe 3 weeks at this point. And this is the first that I'd heard about it. My dad's like, well, I'm going to send her a check, and you're going to owe me the money. And until you pay back the money, I'm not going to let you back in my house. So, like, that was the deal. I had to, like, get a job, and if I paid back the $500 that he was going to write her a check for, because he thought that it was bullshit that I'd done that to her, then he'd let me back in the house. You know, just, when he kicked me out, it was kind of like a timeout. But now I was kind of obligated with JP, because he'd literally gotten a case dropped for me. And I'd already told him that I was going to go out to Vegas. And the whole point that I was going to go out to Vegas was so that I could get money so that I could go live with this other girl in Santa Fe. It was like my drugged out plan. I was like, oh, this makes total sense. Fuck it. I'll bring a bodyboard with me. She'll think I'm pro. You know? It was like only a matter of time before she figured out that I was just full of shit. So anyway. My dad was basically saying that I could come back to his house. So what ends up happening is JP, because he got my case dropped, he decides to take me out to Vegas. Now, I already knew going in that it was going to be difficult to get heroin out there. And I, like, expressed that to him. I'm like, look, bro, last time I went out there, I had a hell of a time. You got to at least get me a piece. Piece 25 grams. I think back then, you're going for like $800 for like good quality heroin. 25 grams. And I want to say that up until that piece, and he got me the piece. Up until, because he knows that I'm not functionable without it. Like, he was always like understanding of that. He knew that I kind of like needed it to get by. And I think before all that happened, before he had like hooked me up with this dude that we went to high school with, and he got my case dropped for me. Wish I still knew that motherfucker. I actually tried that on the pimping and pandering. I tried to like get in contact with that person, and it wasn't happening. I think up until my case got dropped, when he was kind of like just supporting my habit, I think he was like buying me like a half a gram a day. It's like $30 or something. So now he's giving me this big ass fucking pieces about that big. Big old black ball of heroin. I'm stoked. I'm like, fuck. I'm not even going to go back to my parents' house. Fuck this. Let's go to Vegas. So he drives me out there, and he puts me up, it was like off strip. I don't know. It wasn't like the MGM Grand or anything like that. Kind of like a ghetto hotel. And basically, he said that my sole purpose was just to sit in that. He's like, you can sit in this hotel, you can get loaded. He's like, if you want to go out and you want to have sex, that's cool. I was like, oh, thanks, master. I'll press the dinging bell if I want to fuck someone. Make sure that I have permission from you. And all I had to do was wait for him, and he was going to come, like, bring coke out there, you know? And he just wanted me to be out there. I had no idea how much. I really didn't know the logistics of it. I just know that I had to sit there, and basically he was getting sick of always going to Vegas, like going back and forth. So I think his logic is now, instead of going there like a couple times a week, 2-3 times a week, he just comes and brings whatever he was going to sell throughout the week, bring it to me, and then people would be in and out of the hotel room. Sketchy as fuck. I was like, I'm down. So I end up going there, and like I said, I got this piece. I don't remember the name of the hotel, but it was somewhere off strip. It was not like a nice hotel. Probably like $70 a night. But I was like, I didn't give a fuck. I was like, oh, I'm just going to watch Nick at Night and shoot up. And I didn't even want that. I was so strung out at that point, I didn't give a shit. I just stayed in that hotel. This is what ends up happening when I get out there. So I think he had dropped me off on like I don't know, somewhere like in the middle of the week, I want to say. And he was coming back on the weekend. At that point, he didn't have a job or anything. All he did was play poker and sell cocaine. That's it. I loved it about him. And me, like, in this, like, heroin cocoon that I was in, I legitimately was like, all right, I'm going to save up some money. Yeah, right. Never saved money. I'm going to go out to Santa Fe. I'm going to marry this dime, even though our whole communication's been on the false pretense that I'm a pro surfer. But you're going to see that my dick's like 3 inches long. No pro surfer's got a small dick like that. I mean, I don't know. I've heard. So anyway, so it was like midweek. He's supposed to come back on the weekend. I think I was there like 4 or 5 days. Just waiting for it. Like, just sitting there. And I'm like super content. Like, I don't need to really leave. Gave me some money for food and shit. I wasn't even eating though. Like, just pick at blueberry muffins. I'd be like, I'm starving. And I'd like taste a crumb and I'd be like, nauseous. So he shows back up. Finally, like on the weekend, he's furious about something. I was like, what's up? He's like, oh, dude, got a big problem, bro. I was like, what? He's like, fucking blackjack, bro. Fucking goddamn Indian casinos. It's like, I lost everything. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I lost everything playing blackjack. I was like, I thought you didn't play blackjack. I thought you said that that's gambling and poker. He said, shut up. He said, come on, man. We're gonna go to the Bellagio and we're gonna hustle queers. I was like, wait, what? I was like, I'm not doing that. What do you mean? He's like, nah, dude. I'm not talking about, like, sexual shit. I'm talking about we're gonna go sell him some fake fucking cocaine. I'm like, that's your plan? He's like, yeah. We'll target the gays. I was like, fuck. I was, like, completely obligated to this. Like, I was, like, pretty much so strung out, and he was, like, my livelihood. I had no shelter. Without this dude, I had, like, nothing. I'd have to go back to Santa Barbara. And I'd have to find $500 before I could even do that. My dad wasn't going to let me back in unless I paid off the fucking DVD thing. He's like, check it out, dude. I have a gram. Okay? I have a gram of real cocaine. I've got an 8-ball of laxatives. I need you to get people thinking they're buying the cocaine, and we'll do the 3-card monte on them, bro. Switcheroo. But only gays. I was like, dude. I was like, alright, dude, but I'm not doing any weirdo shit for money. He's like, hopefully it won't come to that. I was like, what the fuck's that supposed to mean, bro? So anyway, so we end up going to the Bellagio. And like, I remember I had just, I just turned 21. I definitely was dressed like striped, was probably wearing like pajama pants or whatever. And we sat at like some, I don't know, some restaurant where you could like see the rest of the casino. We were like on the casino floor of the Bellagio. There was like some restaurant, you know, where we could get a drink. He buys me like some like super like fruity exotic drink. He's like, look, play the part, bro. I was like, God, man, this is bullshit. What do you want me to do? He's like, find a gay. I felt like I was playing Where's Waldo. I was like looking around. And I felt like a weirdo. I'd like zero in on dudes that like had their like shirts unbuttoned. I'd like point to him and he'd be like, yeah, alright. Go ask him if he wants any cocaine. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Aren't the laws in Vegas like super crazy? Like, what if I get caught? It's like, you owe me big time, bro. Well, and he starts like reading off this laundry list of things he'd done. I was like, alright, you're right. So I started going up to dudes. Like, we'd be sitting in this restaurant. He'd basically point guys out that I don't know why I have no idea what this guy was thinking. I know he lost like all of his money. Like, this whole plan for me to like sell blow for him like went completely out the window. I go up to guys and I'd be like, hey man. And he's picking the most flamboyant gay dudes you could imagine. Guys with like suspenders and no shirt, wearing like firefighter fucking hats. Be like, ask that guy. And, like, I'd go up to these guys and I'd be like, hey, you want any blow? What's that, kitty? I'm like, you want any coke? Not blow. Coke. I'm selling cocaine. Honey, I don't do that. I do crystal meth. That's what I'd get for most of them. My God, dude. Like, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, who knows? Bunch of motherfuckers turn me down. And I'd like go back, I'd like have my head down and like walk back to the table and like, dude, no, they don't want to buy coke. Why does it have to be gay guys? Why can't we just go find some degenerate frat boy looking motherfuckers? Drunk people love coke. Why does it have to be the most flamboyant gay people? What the fuck do you have against gay people? He's like, you're not being flirtatious enough. He's like, dude, look cuter. I was like, how am I supposed to look cuter, dude? The fuck? I weigh like 150 pounds. I have acne. I stink. Nobody wants to fucking hang out with me. And like, he sees this skinny black dude. Overtly gay. He's like, what about the black one? I'm like, now we're doing black gay people. You're a piece of shit, dude. Fucking prejudice. He's like, shut up. So I end up going up to this black guy. And I was like, by this point, I felt like a failed telemarketer. Like, there was no passion in my pitch. I was like, hey, I'm from Los Angeles. I'm selling cocaine. He's like, I want some. I swear I was like more mad that the dude wanted coke than like I was like hoping that I'd get rejected. I was like, well, I don't even want to know what's gonna go down right now. JP like was really generous and really nice, but he had like a really dark side to him, which I saw right here. So I was like, all right, well, my boyfriend's at the table. JP had like instructed me to say that. He's like, boyfriend. I was like, yeah, I'm not single. He's like, that's cool, honey. I'm just trying to get some nose candy. Whatever he was saying, I was like, all right, just go hang out with my boyfriend. Like all these guys are like, there's like construction workers like rolling, hey, queers. So we end up walking up to JP. I don't remember what the black guy's name was, but I was like, all right, he wants coke. JP just like straight up snaps into character. He's like, hey, handsome. I was like, the fuck? And JP was like a pretty tough guy. Like, not effeminate at all, but he played the part well. It's like, well, I can give you a little sample in the bathroom. He's like biting his lip. I'm like, gee. And I was so strung out at this point, but like, I swear to God, like reality was like kind of like cracking through at this point. I was like, this is so bizarre. JP's like, look, how much are you thinking about getting? He's like, how much for an 8-ball? JP's like, $600 or something outrageous. Like, guy's like, I'm down. JP's like, all right. Bathroom's been a little, hot for us. It's like saying all these trigger words. I'm like, Jesus Christ. He's like swaying his hips like he's hula hooping. I was like, dude. I couldn't believe it. I swear, if I had a phone, I would have been like, this is for fucking posterity, man. This is some weird ass shit. So he's like explaining to this guy's like, yeah, well, the bathroom's been a little hot for us. Actually, he was talking way more flamboyantly. Well, the bathroom's been pretty much spicy for us. We're going to go in there. We're going to be in the third stall. Knock 3 times, sweetheart. I was like, I didn't say anything, but in my mind I was like, God, man, this is making me super fucking uncomfortable. All right, so anyway, so we end up, JP and I like go to this bathroom together. And this is in the Bellagio. This is a really, really nice casino. There's like, all the bathrooms there look like fucking country club bathrooms, There's like little like warm towelettes and shit. Me and him go into the third bathroom stall together. And he's like, all right, dude. This is what I want you to do. Here's the real Graham. When he comes in here, give him a bump. Then I want you to get your finger, stick it in your mouth, suck on it, dip it in there, and put it in his mouth. I was like, I'm not doing that. Fuck no, dude. I'm not doing that. He's like, you're a bitch. I was like, what the fuck, dude? I'm a bitch because I don't want to do that? You do that. I'm not doing that. Weirdo. God, I'm not doing that. All of a sudden, there's like, you better do it. Just like, oh my God. I end up opening the bathroom stall door. He's like changed outfits. I swear, he was like in some he was in like some weird ass fucking circus. I don't even know how to describe it. It was like it's like some sort of like V-neck that had these strings with like furry balls on it. I don't know what that's called, but he wasn't wearing that when I met him outside of the bathroom. Now he had that on. He's like, I'm here. I was like, all right. I'm gonna give you a sample. JP's like he's like staring at me. He's like, I'm like shaking as I'm opening the sack. I'm like, all right. Like, put my finger to my mouth. I'm like, oh. He's like making a fist. Like he's gonna beat me up if I don't do it. I'm looking at this black dude, like this gay black dude, like has his hands on his hips. He's like, I'm waiting for that sample. And we will get into what happens with this very dark chapter in my life. The next installment of the Albuquerque series. Like, comment, subscribe, check out patreon.com/RyanLeone. Palabra.